dog lovers, welcome back to another episode of your favorite dog training podcast, Listen Dog Training, the Walk and Talk. And I can officially say that, some of you anyway, because this podcast officially went to the top of the Apple Podcast UK charts for its category last week. So thank you so much for listening and being here with me, or rather allowing me to be here with you and keep you company. Also, thank you for sending me your gorgeous dog walking pics. If you tag me in your Insta story when you're listening, I will 100% share it. Your dogs are all far too gorgeous not to be plastered all over the gram, that's for sure. If you are new around here, this is the podcast that enables me to come with you on your dog walk and share my most valuable insights and top training tips from more than a decade spent working as a multi-award winning dog trainer in the UK. And today, I want to unpack something juicy with you guys. Now, this is a term that I hear tossed around a lot, particularly on social media and Instagram and TikTok and the like, and maybe you've seen it too. It's kind of fluffy, it sounds lovely, it appeals to all of us who decided we wanted to become dog owners because we just love that idea of companionship and connection and having this little four-legged bestie, and that term is relationship-based training. And it just sounds beautiful, doesn't it? I mean, who wouldn't want a great relationship with their dog, right? But I want to get into this today properly because what I'm actually seeing happen here is that it's fast turning into this vague buzzword, like something people reference without really defining, or worse, something people think that they are doing or they want to do, but then straight away they're finding themselves stuck because actually they have just no real idea what it means in practice. So in this episode, I want to explore properly what relationship-based training really means beyond the fluffy Instagram caption version. So we are going to talk about what this actually is and how it differs from other methods of training, the science behind why it works, especially for the modern pet dogs we're sharing our lives with today, but also the most common pitfalls I see when people do try to focus on bonding first, and how to actually implement this in a practical, structured, science-backed way without fluff, without guilt, without guesswork. So grab your dog's lead, pop your headphones in, and let's get into it. Okay, first up, what does relationship-based training really mean? Let's start here. So at its core, relationship-based training is an approach that simply recognizes dogs as emotional, thinking beings as opposed to being these programmable robots. And its core messaging is essentially that training is most effective when it's built on connection, trust, and communication between the two of you, not just repetition and reinforcement. But here's the key that I think maybe a lot of people are accidentally bypassing. That doesn't mean that it ignores the science. It actually uses all of the brilliant behavior science that we have come to know and love over the past few decades: classical conditioning, operant conditioning, reinforcement schedules, stimulus control, arousal regulation. None of that stuff that we have embraced in the past 10, 20 years is cast aside, but rather it's utilized within the context of a secure, trust-filled partnership between you and your dog. Okay, so in reality, it's not soft and fluffy at all. It's bloody smart because it's training that starts with the relationship between the two of you as the container. So rather than approaching your life with your dog by training them and then bonding with them as we go, we actually approach it with the slight perspective shift that says bond with them so that you can train them effectively and successfully. So I've mentioned the science already. Let's zoom in on that behavioral science side for a sec. Dogs are social mammals. Their brains are wired for attachment, for emotional safety, and co-regulation. In fact, there are studies using MRI scanners that show that the reward center of dogs' brains lights up in response to the scent of their guardian, their human owner. So consider that for a second, right? Just your smell can activate their dopamine system. You don't even need to be in there giving them, ear scratches and tummy tickles. They can just catch a vibe of your scent. So that tells us something huge, and that is that you, the human, can be a primary reinforcer for your dog. Not just food, not just toys, you. Another fantastic effect you have on your dog, if you do share a bond based on trust, is that you increase your dog's willingness to engage, to explore, and to learn. And that's because the brain learns best when it feels safe and when the dog feels emotionally regulated. This environmental check-in, if you like, is called neuroception, and it's just the subconscious scanning of the environment for cues of safety or danger. We do it all the time. And when we as owners focus on building connection and predictability and emotional safety, we help our dogs switch their learning brains on. Conversely, if your dog feels stressed or coerced or confused, that learning brain shuts down. So, relationship based training done right is strategically designed to work with the brain, not against it. So, that's how it aligns with more modern methods. How does it differ from other methods? Let's contrast this quickly. So, some training methods rely primarily on compliance, don't they? Do the behavior or else. This would probably involve corrections, aversives, punishment, heavy control. Other methods might focus only on positive reinforcement, but without considering the emotional or relational context. What's golden about relationship based training is that it weaves these threads together. Yes, we use positive reinforcement. Yes, we teach cues and we build reliable behaviors, but we also ask, is this dog emotionally ready? Does this dog want to engage with me right now? What does our relationship need in this moment? It's layered, it's intentional, and it requires emotional intelligence from the human being that's involved. So, where do some people go wrong with this approach? Okay, let's talk about some of the big pitfalls I see, because this approach can go off the rails if it's misunderstood. So, here are the most common mistakes that can happen when people try to do relationship based training and then they end up getting stuck. So, mistake number one is that they end up waiting too long to teach basic skills. So, some people adopt this approach and then they think they can't start training until they've built this perfect bond. But here's the thing: training is bonding, learning together, celebrating wins, working through tiny challenges. That's what deepens your connection. It's not just all about laying around and cuddling all day, as delightful as that might be, but actually delaying training can leave your dog confused and under-supported and end up causing friction in the relationship rather than preventing it. Mistake number two is that these owners avoid setting boundaries. Now, this is where so many people can get a bit too gung-ho when they want to robustly reject all of these horrible old school training approaches. Somewhere along the line, people got the idea that boundaries are mean, they're horrible. But the truth is, dogs thrive with gentle, consistent structure. When it's done with compassion, boundaries actually create safety. They give the dog predictability and trust. Dogs who don't know what's expected of them in certain situations or any situation are left having to choose a behavior themselves, and they might choose wrong. And then this is detrimental to the relationship. It's certainly not going to help, is it? So, a really basic bitch example of this is there are lots of times when it's really convenient or appropriate or simply safe for my dogs to be waiting on their beds, rather than tearing around under my feet or jumping up at me or whatever else they might choose to do. And one of these times is whenever I get home from when I've been out. The dogs have been home alone for a bit and then I arrive home. Now, in that situation, I've taught my dogs that rather than run at the door and leap all over me when I first arrive home, they default to their beds. And this is useful because I can get in the door, I can get my shoes off, I can close the door so we're all safe. I might have my arms full and be carrying things. No one's going to get tripped over or trodden on. It's really useful for everyone. Now, it's not mean because I trained my dogs to do that using only positive reinforcement. I never punished them for not being on their beds. I just made their beds super, super rewarding and I paired that behavior with certain predictable cues like my arrival through the front door. So my dogs are totally happy to wait on their bed for a minute or so because they know they're going to get a handful of kibble. And then when I am safely in the door and I've sorted all my stuff out, I'm going to go straight over to them and say hello and they can jump up and have a tummy tickle and like all of that good stuff. They've been deprived of absolutely nothing by the putting in place of that boundary. But how great is it for our relationship to know that this lovely get home greeting moment will never be rushed or frantic or end with someone accidentally getting stood on? Sometimes boundaries are literally the best gift you can give to your dog. Okay, mistake number 3. People can confuse presence with engagement. So this is such a basic one, but it's so important. Meaningful engagement is an investment into your relationship with your dog, but just being around your dog a lot doesn't automatically build a great relationship. Presence is not engagement. Dogs need meaningful interaction, shared play, communication, responsiveness, not just company. So if you work from home, you're home all day, that's great. But if you're literally plugged into your laptop for 10 hours and you're not engaging with your dog at all, that's not an investment into the relationship. Now, mistake number 4 is for all my cuddly dog lovers out there who try to be reinforcing without actually fully understanding reinforcement. And this is a bit of a hard truth. Being loving isn't the same as being reinforcing. You can totally adore your dog and still not be the thing they want to come back to. You can spoil them, dote on them, all of that. But when you boil it right down, simply understanding reinforcement, timing, and what your dog actually values is absolutely critical. If you constantly pick your dog up for cuddles, but he finds physical contact to be punishing, and some dogs do, then those cuddles are just not the one and you're not investing in your relationship at all. So that being said, let's dive into some practical ways to do it right by getting into exactly what this actually looks like with 5 practical pillars of relationship-based training that you can start using right now. You can throw these in today, okay? Number 1, prioritize engagement before cues. So before teaching your heel or your stay or your leave it or whatever, teach your dog to choose you. Teach your dog to check in, to orient towards you in some way and to seek connection and to value that connection. Now, to do this, you can use really simple engagement games like eye contact games, name response games. You could reinforce every voluntary check-in. So those are the ones that you haven't cued or asked for. Doing this when you're outside of the house, out on walks, is a really great one to do. You can do simple moving away and rewarding when they follow and all kinds of simple exercises like this. And introducing these to your daily routine will help to create what is called volitional proximity, which is basically just a fancy way of saying your dog is choosing to be near to you. And this is gold dust for all your future training. So pillar number 2 is building a shared language, because a relationship without communication is just vibes and you're only going to get so far with that. What you actually need is structure, predictability, and a system. Now, I'm actually working on a really cool 21-day engagement course that goes into this in all kinds of detail. But for the here and now, here are some simple ways that you can get started with this. So you can use marker words or clickers to give extra clarity when you're training. You can introduce release cues like okay or free to tell your dog when they're finished or when they can move or when a behavior can end. You can make sure you're utilizing a reinforcement strategy that suits your dog's drive. So think food, play, praise, sniffing, chasing, but also mainly I'm asking you to think, what does my individual dog enjoy? And finally, you can bring some awareness to yourself. So prioritize calm body language, prioritize a consistent tone of voice. Always be aware of what you are bringing to the interaction, just as much as what your dog is bringing to the interaction. And all of this together is going to go a long way towards helping your dog make sense of the world with you. Pillar number 3 is using play as a learning tool, because play isn't just fun, it's so neurologically powerful. And I know I talk about this all the time. It builds dopamine, oxytocin, and oodles of confidence. And because it's social, it strengthens the relationship too. So there's literally nothing not to love about this. And I want you to make sure you are making plenty of time for tug games, chase and be caught games, toy switches, social sniff and seek games, even just the basic gentle like roughhousing and rolling around on the floor like a total goofball with your dog. Albie absolutely loves that one. But just don't play with an agenda all the time. Just play. Literally just give yourself 10 minutes and just play without a goal of achieving anything. That's where the gold is. Now, pillar number 4 is a goodie, and I think it's something that very few people think about a lot, and that is reinforce the state that you want and not just the behavior that you want. So this is where it gets juicy, and this is where your training is going to end up being a cut above your next door neighbor's dog training, okay? Because you're not just training a sit. You're training a calm sit under pressure. You're training a joyful, enthusiastic recall. You're training a fully connected heel, even when the world is exciting. So when you reinforce, think, what's the emotional state I'm building here when I'm teaching this? That's relationship-based training. You're shaping who they are with you, not just what they do with you. And then finally, pillar number 5, know what's yours to own. And please don't swerve this, because we are all human and we all make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time, but the gold is in owning those mistakes. Sometimes when there's a breakdown in the relationship, we assume it's the dog. We blame the dog. We say the dog has a behavior problem, but often it's a lack of clarity or consistency or responsiveness from us. So if your dog isn't listening, ask yourself, have I actually reinforced what I want enough times? Am I really being clear and consistent? Is my dog actually regulated enough to learn right now? Have I taught this skill in small enough steps? Am I asking too much? Relationship-based training asks us to be emotionally honest, not just behaviorally savvy. So, all that being said, is relationship-based training just one of those fluffy feel-good labels, a buzzword? Well, honestly, I don't think so. Not when it's done properly, not when it's understood properly, when it's grounded in behavior science, when it's layered with intentionality, and when it's practiced with humility and joy. It's absolutely a breakthrough, because here's the thing. When you become someone your dog wants to follow, someone they trust to guide them, someone who is emotionally attuned and behaviorally clear, you will unlock levels of ease, connection, and trainability that most people never experience. It doesn't make training effortless. It doesn't do all the hard work for you, but it does make it way more joyful. And it does make progress pretty much inevitable. So, if you've been stuck in obedience drills that feel totally boring and disconnected, or if your dog listens at home but fully checks out in the real world, or if you just know you want that deeper connection, but you really don't know how to create it, you don't know what to switch up, this is your sign. Start with the relationship, build the skills from there, and don't be afraid to ask for help along the way, because I truly believe, more than anything else that I've learned over the years about this incredible relationship we've forged between our two wildly different species, you truly deserve a life with your dog that feels easy, connected, and joyful. And it's 100% achievable, because I have honestly helped so many people do it already. So thank you so much for walking with me today, or letting me walk with you. If this episode landed, please do share it with a friend, or pop over to the gram and let me know your biggest takeaway. I'm at Listen Dog Training on Instagram and TikTok. And if you're ready to start building that relationship-based foundation in a step-by-step way, keep your eyes peeled, because over the coming weeks, I've got something very special coming to help you do exactly that. And please don't forget that the discount code podcast10, I think it's podcast 10. Yes, podcast 10. That discount code gets you 10% off all my existing courses and training packs at listendogtraining.com, just because I love you so much. So until next time, keep walking, keep training, and give your doggo a good scritch behind the ear from me. And I'll see you next week for another episode of The Walk and Talk.